Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee. I am your host, Brooke Carlock, and today is a special episode. We have done this every year now. It is the 3rd anniversary of the death of our daughter, Libby. So I am here with David Miller, Libby's dad, my ex-husband. So we're just going to do an update on how we're doing, what life has been like, what it's like being at 3 years after losing our child. I have some questions that people in my YouTube audience left for me and some other kind of random questions that we came up with that we thought people might want to know about. But if you are watching live and you have any questions for us, please feel free to leave them in the comment section and we will answer those as best we can. And if you're watching this on the replay, hello and welcome. And you can always leave stuff down in the comments and I will try to answer those as well. All right. What's up, David?
Not much.
Let me get situated here. All right. Tell everyone what.
Spoiler alert. It still sucks.
It still sucks. Yeah, no kidding. If you want to tell people what you're drinking while I...
Same as always, Earl Grey with honey.
Gross tea. I, as always, have my protein coffee. Never anything new. Sometimes it's a new mix, but yeah, pretty much essentially the same thing every single time. All right, what do we want to do first? Do we want to do the YouTube questions or do we just want to do like a general? We're keeping it very cash.
Yeah.
How about, let's start with the YouTube questions because I want to make sure that I get to those. All right, so the first question I had from my YouTube audience, let's see. The first one is from 9384 Cows. And this person says, I just want to know how you both are doing and if life is getting any easier. I know it will never be the same for either of you. And unless you live it, you don't know how hard it is just to get out of bed every day and do life. My best to you both. Well, thank you. And yeah, so I guess just, is it getting any easier?
No, it's, I don't know. It's actually getting harder, I think, in some ways. I think especially seeing a lot of the missed opportunities, the things that we're missing that we should be going through are really hard at times. Watching the other girls that Libby dance with, just watching them grow. And, you had this week, you had your stuff at school go on that, things that she should have been doing that just makes you miss those things. I think it's a growth of grief, I guess. I don't know, like the first instant that it happens, it's a completely different kind of grief. Just the shock and all that. And now it's the missed milestones that should be happening that make it hard. So it's a different kind of grief. But no, not a whole lot easier. Really.
Agreed. I would say the same thing. So if you are new to the podcast or you don't know our situation, I should probably give you some background information before we just jump in here. But our 10-year-old daughter, Libby, died in a car accident. Our son, Max, who was 18 at the time, was driving the car and crossed through an intersection and they were hit by a car carrier truck and Libby died at the scene. So yeah, with that said, I would say it's kind of the same for me. I don't think it's getting easier at all. But I am not sure for me personally if that is because of my circumstances this year. I've talked about this before in other videos. I'm a teacher. I'm an 8th grade English teacher. And this year, Libby's class is in the 8th grade. So I see her friends and classmates every single day, and I have to teach them every day. And what David was talking about, like this week is a perfect example. We walked the 8th grade class over to the high school so that they could tour the high school for the first time and learn about different like class electives and stuff there. And then they took a class photo in the auditorium that they're going to show at their graduation. And literally the entire time it was like a refrain in my head of like, Libby should be here. Libby should be here. Like, why isn't Libby here? This would be so exciting for her. And, seeing all of her friends excited about being at the high school. So for me, this year is extremely rough. And I would say it's harder than last year because it is constant daily reminders for me of her. It's a little different in that I think at this point, after 3 years, like, I feel like I am learning to live with my grief a little more, if that makes it. My grief just sort of feels like a part of me now. It's like I kind of don't remember when I did and feel like this giant hole in my heart. It's like it's just there. And I think I'm getting used to it a little bit more. It's kind of sunk in though, like, oh, okay, I guess this is just how I'm gonna feel now. And sometimes that's hard to digest. It's hard to accept. Yeah, this is just, there's always gonna be this giant empty space. I'm also getting a lot of the kind of, like you said, watching her friends grow up and things. This year, I think, unlike previous years, I see her as older. Like, it's strange because when she died, she was 10 and I still thought of her like a little girl. But now, I know she'd be going into high school and she'd be more grown up, and there's more of that, like, like she wouldn't even be a little girl anymore. And that's kind of weird thinking about that.
No, we talked about that earlier this week, about who would she be hanging out with, seeing certain friends that she had, when she was still alive, and where they're at, and would she still be hanging with those people? Where would she have, veered off from certain kids? And, wondering, would she be in, going down a bad path? Or, we both believe that Libby was smart enough to, know right from wrong and do the right things in most cases. But I think it's, our biggest thing that we always think about is Libby was such a loving and caring person and wanted to include everybody. Would she be able to cut some of those people that maybe aren't doing the right things, kind of step away from them, because she just always wanted everybody to be happy and be included? So, having those discussions and who she would be at this point. And it's tough, and it's just the evolution of grief, I think, from what we initially had versus what we have now.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to throw, since this is live, I'm going to throw some comments and questions up on the screen as we get them. So Antoinette says, good morning, guys. Sending love and prayers on this very hard day. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Yeah, this whole weekend is just sucked. It is. And I think, it's coming. So you're kind of prepared for it. You just have to kind of accept that it's going to suck. But thank you very much. Oh, Mrs. Walker, we were just talking about you. So Mrs. Walker is she was both of our boys' teachers, and Libby wanted her as a teacher so badly, and she used to go say hi to her and stuff at school. But Mrs. Walker was, I would say, Max and Grace, and both of them, their favorite teacher. Mrs. Walker, we were talking about you literally yesterday with the boys, because we were having a discussion about their favorite books, and a bunch of their favorite books they read in your class. And then they were talking about what a great teacher you were. And Grayson said that his friend, well, you'd know him as Smiley, that Smiley ran into you and showed you pictures of them in Florida. Anyway, veering off the track, but Mrs. Walker, man, you had such an impact on all of my kids' lives. So she says, good morning to you both. Thinking about you not only today, but often. I have Libby's picture at work. Oh, thank you so much. She would be a shining star. I hope so. I like to think so, honestly.
Yeah. I think ultimately she would be. I mean, I think, again, I'd like to think that we as parents did a good job raising her and taught her right from wrong, and, stand up for people when they're, you know, being bullied or whatever else. But at a certain point, you have to realize that, you know, not all relationships are good relationships, and you need to step away from some people, unfortunately.
And I think she knew the line because she wanted to be the good kid. She wouldn't have wanted to let us down or her teachers down or anything like that. So yeah, I tend to agree. She probably would have been a rock star. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. You ready for the next one is actually more for me and not for you. I just want to read it so that I don't forget about it. Okay, so Holly Redhead on YouTube asked, she said, you may not want to talk about this, but I'd like to know how things were different, good and bad, when you went off your antidepressants. What was underneath your prescriptions waiting for you? So yeah, I do not mind talking about this at all. I'm super open about my use of medication. I was on antidepressants before Libby died, and then once she died, I definitely ramped up my usage and went on different kinds of things that were much more intense. So at this point, I have weaned off of everything except for sertraline, which I'm trying to think what that is. You don't know. I'm looking at you like you know. You have no idea. It's like a very, it's a, yeah, you can look it up if you want. It's a mild one. So the doctor was basically like joking, saying we should put sertraline in the water because it would just make everybody a little bit happier. Zoloft. So it's it's the fancy name for Zoloft. I'm on a very low dose of that now, and I still take that every day. The one that had the biggest impact for me coming off of it was the strongest one that I took, which was a medicine for like anxiety and panic attacks. And I want to say that was hydroxyzine, which I'm not sure what that's the fancy name for, but it was on a couple different ones. But yeah, that was the one that was the most challenging because it really, sertraline, I feel like myself, like most of the low grade antidepressants, you still kind of feel like yourself. It just sort of takes the edge off a little bit. Like I know so many people that are on that same thing. If you're a teacher, you're probably, I feel like everyone in my school, all the teachers are on it just to make it through the day. But yeah, the one that was stronger for panic attacks, that was rough because I still had, once I got off of that, I still had the panic attacks. But I just had to learn to deal with them on my own. For me, it is mostly, and actually he witnessed this yesterday. When I start to think about the accident. So yesterday we went and prettied up Libby's accident site, the memorial where the crash happened, and got it all decorated. We change it every season, so we made it nice, and we figured people were going there today. So yeah, we went to make it look nice, but then it's actually being on that intersection where the crash happened, and I'm pretty sure that was what triggered it. But a lot of times it happens when I'm in the car and I see a car carrier truck, and my brain still automatically goes to what happened in the accident. And I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly. I mean, I saw the aftermath, but again, we've talked about we didn't see Libby. They wouldn't let us see her after the accident. So then your brain automatically assumes the worst. And that is what my brain does. It pictures, sorry, this is probably hard to hear, but yeah, I mean, you know, because yeah, so my brain pictures what she looked like and what the impact was like. And as much as I tell myself not to think about those things, I get really sad because I wasn't there, and I wasn't there when she died, and I wasn't there to hold her hand and hold her and take care of her. And that's the hardest thing. That's what sets off my panic attacks. So like yesterday, my brain was just going and I just started sobbing. And that's what gets me those kind of like big cries where I can't breathe. And it's like, you're, you know, taking deep breaths because you're trying to breathe, but you can't because you're crying so hard. And yeah, so I still have those, not super often, but I definitely still have those. And I used to have a pill that I could just, when I started feeling that way, I'd pop it and it would I wouldn't feel anything really. But that was what I didn't like. I didn't like not feeling anything because I knew that stuff was under there and was just waiting until I wasn't medicated. And it was. I mean, it was. I have had to learn how to deal with that. So the stuff definitely doesn't go away. But I will say I don't regret being on those medications because I don't know if I could have, in the state I was in, I don't know if I could have functioned without them. Like I was better functioning as a zombie than like literally being hysterical all the time. And I think that's more how I would have been if I hadn't taken that medication. So hopefully that answered your question. Might not be what you want to hear, but I think it's important eventually. I think Holly had said later on in her comment that she's about 2 years out. That was probably about when I started weaning myself off of the more serious ones. Because I started to get worried that I was becoming dependent on them. And in all the grief stuff that I've learned, I knew that the feelings were waiting to come out. And I also got myself off of Ambien because I was relying on Ambien every single night to sleep because I could not sleep at all. I still really can't sleep at all. I just didn't feel comfortable being on all those medications. So yeah, it's there, it's waiting. But if you need it, take it. And when you feel like you might be able to survive without it, I recommend trying to wean off of it because the feelings will still be there. So that was a very long ramble. Sorry. For anyone who does not care about medication.
No, I think it's important. I think it's an important conversation because, sometimes people are like, oh, you're, medication, you're just surviving off of that. But I think it's important to also recognize that at a certain point, you can bury those emotions and feelings, but eventually you have to deal with them. Mm-hmm. If you're going to get to the new normal, I should say, not past it, because we never get past it, but to get to that new normal, I think it's important that you have to deal with that stuff. And I think some of those medications, like you said, were basically just numbing you to the point where it was just like, oh, whatever, I just want to sit here and not do anything, So I think it was important for you to step away from those and make that decision. So, but I also think like you said, at the time, absolutely was necessary.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right. I'm going to go through some of these other questions.
Sure.
Again, if you are watching and you have any questions for us, throw them in the chat. We are happy to answer things. So, actually, I think some of these are kind of interesting about like co-parenting. So how did your grief impact your relationship with each other? Well,
yeah, just for those who don't know, we're not married anymore. We're divorced, and we're divorced for 4 years, almost 3.5 years.
2018 was when we got divorced, and then I'd gotten remarried. So I was married again to my second husband when Libby died, and he and I got divorced like right after Libby died. And yeah, I mean, we always say we had a very good, for being divorced, we had a very good co-parenting relationship. And that was because both of our parents were divorced and we had gone through that. And especially with my family, I knew what I did not want to do as far as being a divorced couple with kids, because my parents handled it terribly. So that's the understatement of the century. But I did not want to be my parents, honestly. So yeah, we just sort of made it a priority to keep getting along and try to do. And it wasn't perfect, but I mean, I think compared to a lot of people, I feel like we had a good co-parenting relationship. And then after Libby died, it was, I mean, we've said this before, probably in every video, but David and I are the only people that really understand what he and I are going through, what it feels like to lose Libby. And it's still different for each of us, but I think, our grief and how it affected our relationship, it definitely brought us closer again, because we became each other's support. And then also with our kids, because we have Max and Grayson together. And I would say personally, I don't know if it's the same for you. When Libby died, they were both living with me. And then after Max graduated from college, Grayson graduated from high school, not long after Libby died. And then I bought my tiny house here, and they both went and lived with David. So I'm over there like all the time. I mean, pretty much, not all the time, but I mean, I'm over there a lot.
Over there once a week for dinner.
At least once a week for dinner.
Stop by on a weekend, at least one.
Yeah, because that's where the boys are. And I would say, I don't know if it's an answer to this question, but I would say that has become a huge part of our post-Libby life, is making sure that we are spending time with the boys. It's become a huge priority, because when you lose a child, you realize, you never know how much time you're going to get. So we want to spend as much time possible with our remaining kids. So because of that, I mean, I will say you're my best friend.
I think the other part of that comes into it too is we're both pretty introverted.
Yeah.
We don't have a huge friend group. We've got, a small group of friends each. And again, so we can have conversations with those people, but like you said, what we lost, nobody understands that the way that you and I understand it. And like you said, it's very different, your relationship with Libby versus my relationship with Libby. But yeah, I think it's, it's been helpful to have that somebody that just, when either one of us is having a really bad day, we can call the other one up and be like, it's a bad Libby day. And we know what that means. And we know to just sit back and, kind of listen to what the other one's going through and offer whatever, support we can. So yeah, I think I know we're unique in a lot of ways. There's a lot of, you go the opposite way, parents who were together when their child passed and they end up divorcing because they either can't deal with the emotions of it, don't talk about it, or one of them is, just totally losing it and the other one doesn't know how to deal with it. So, but yeah, I think we've had I think it was helpful the way we were prior to Libby's death. The way we co-parented together and made the children the focus of everything, because had we not done that, had it been a more contentious relationship, I think it would have been a bigger issue.
It would have made it a lot harder.
Yeah. But
I feel bad for people that are in that position.
Yeah, it's hard enough to go through, but to not have support, I just can't imagine it. Like I don't know. Again, I go to work, I come home, I don't do a whole lot. I've got a very small group of friends. If I didn't have you as somebody to be able to kind of talk to, it would be very difficult. I'm sure I would find other people to talk to, but again, talking to even my parents, it's just not the same. Talking to them and it's hard for us too. The other option you would think is, well, we could talk to the boys, but there's that fine line there too for us because Max was driving and, we're, I think, aware of that, and we don't want to burden him, I guess.
No. And honestly, you can tell, like, he doesn't really like to bring it up either. He will talk about it if you ask him, or if, or if like, he's been on the podcast before. You can find episodes with Max, talking about it, and he will, and he's very open and honest about the whole thing. But on a daily basis, he does not like to bring it up.
No.
So
I think a lot of that does stem from, he feels responsible for it in a way, even though, we've told him that it was an accident. It would happen, whatever. But no, I think it's very different depending on who you're talking to. And I think just for us, it's been great to have each other, to be able to support each other.
Yeah. Okay, so what were some of the challenges of grieving as co-parents who are no longer together? Well, we kind of just covered that. We kind of like I said, I was married to my second husband when Libby died. And that ended really quickly. So we've kind of supported each other from the day that it happened.
Yeah.
So, let's see. How do you approach honoring Libby's memory together, even though you're no longer married? We do a lot of the stuff that we do to honor her, we do together. Yeah. So, like a perfect example, the things that we traditionally do on, the anniversaries of things. So today is the anniversary of the day that she died. So yesterday, as a family, us and the boys and Grayson's girlfriend, we paint rocks. So I have some of them here too. So we paint rocks with things that are important to Libs, like Harry Potter, and she was Hamilton obsessed. So Hamilton references. This was one of her favorite stuffed animals. So we all got together at David's house as a family and painted those, and then we'll go out and hide them on trails around where we live for people to find. And they have Live Like Libby. You can see it, livelike-libby.org. There we go. On the back, where people can go and they can take pictures of the rocks wherever they find them, and we post them on the website. And yeah, it's just something. Most things that we do together. Like we went together to redecorate the accident site. We are having noodles tonight. Grayson's making us dinner, and he's making noodles because it was Libby's favorite food. We go to the Olive Garden on her birthday. So yeah, I would say most of the like big traditions that we've formed to honor her on the big days, we do those together, and we have from the get-go. Yeah, it's just and again, I think it's spending time with family. I think that's the thing. Like, we want to do things together, because when you lose someone in the family becomes the focus. It becomes much more, you realize how important it is. Right. So even though we're not together, I think we still look at each other like we're still family, even though we're not together, because we share our kids. Right. So
yeah, I think it's everything you said. It's just, I don't know. I don't know that I would want regardless, you decide to get remarried. Haha.
What was that laugh?
Well, you've said multiple times, I'm not doing that again.
Well, so, I've already had 2 strikes. So.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think if either of us would be in a relationship, I think it would still be something that I would want to include. If I were in a relationship or you were in a relationship, I would want to include you still, because it's still, Libby would want us to all be together, kind of dealing with this all as a family. So
agreed. Okay, so how do you keep Libby's memory alive in your daily lives? Oh, do you want to go?
Carry her with me everywhere?
Okay, you need to tell people, because it's a podcast, so the people listening have no idea what you're doing right now.
So this is, we had these, and Brooke's got hers here too, but we've got stones, and these are basically her ashes that we had made into these stones. And we probably got 25 or so stones, and we gave them out to, anybody in our family that wanted them. Max pulled his out the other day because we were talking about them and stuff. And, Brooke and I carry ours around with us. Typically, other family members just have them in the house nearby that, I'm just sitting here holding it and rubbing it, and it brings me comfort. We obviously have Live Like Libby, that we provide dance scholarships for dancers who maybe can't financially afford to do dance. So we've been able to give away. Well, I know when we counted the last time we were at like $38,000, but we're well over that now. We're probably closer to $44,000 to $45,000 that we've given away. So that's amazing and feels really good to kind of be able to do something that she loved, which was dancing, and make sure that everybody has that opportunity to dance. And, this weekend we've got a bunch of Libby's dance studio. They've got a competition this weekend, so they're, posting stuff as well, which is nice to see that they're still thinking about her as well. But yeah, I think we just talk about her. That's another thing.
Yeah. We talk about her all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as keeping her memory alive for me personally, and I'm positive it's the same way for you, like I don't have to try to keep her memory alive. It is constant. And I was thinking about this the other day. I wish there was a way I could count how many times in a day I think about Libby. It would be almost impossible. But when your kids are alive, you think about them and you love them, and it probably crosses your mind a bunch of times, like, oh, Max would like this, or Grayson would like that, or I need to remind them of this or that or whatever. But now that Libby is, when they're no longer there, multiply that by like 1,000, because every time you hear something, see something, think of something, it also comes along with that stabby heart pain of she's not here.
Right.
So
would she like that?
Yes, it is. I mean, it is constant. And that has been a constant in 3 years for me, at least. That has not gotten any better. And when I say it's gotten like maybe a little bit easier in that way, I mean, like, I still think of her just as much as I always did. That has not gone away at all. I've just kind of learned that is now a part of my life. We just had this discussion where we talked about, like, when you think about her, do you still think about her as like a little girl, or do you think about her as like older? Now she'd be almost going into high school. Like, do you picture her older? And it's both.
I think it depends on the situation. I think it's, I think part of that conversation was, now we look at, we see girls that are her age and it's like, oh, that's a trigger. But I still see girls that were her age when she passed, and that's a trigger. Yeah. So it's all of these things. And I think your question was when we get to that point, like, are we still going to be looking at 19-year-old girls, when Libby would have been that age, mm-hmm. like what would she be doing? I think that's going to be constant.
I think it is, because you're always going to have, like, you're going to have the graduation from high school. You're going to have her friends start to get engaged and then get married and then have babies. And I don't think it's ever going to stop. But I think I'll always still have the things that she liked in my mind from when she was a 10-year-old little girl that died. So every time I see, what was it the other day? A commercial came on TV for a YouTuber that she used to love and watched constantly. And now this YouTuber has her own TV show, which I didn't know. And then a commercial came on for it. And it was just like, and this YouTuber was like, she used to draw like little characters and stuff. And Libby loved the little characters. And like, I don't know if she'd like that now. I mean, she'd be a 13-year-old girl. Would she still like that same stuff? I don't know. But that's the Libby I remember. So anytime I see something that she liked, anytime I see Frozen stuff, lives. Anytime I see Greatest Showman stuff or hear the songs, lives. It's just like constantly.
I mean, like, we were watching a movie yesterday, and it was about a little girl in it, a small baby, and the shows that Libby used to watch were popping up, like
Wonder Pets
and stuff like that. And it's like, so I think it's interesting because we know what she liked when she died.
Yeah.
But we can only speculate what she would like, as we go down there. And it'll be interesting to see how that, whether it's worse or better, or, the not knowing, like what she would be like if that's harder for us. Just not having, missing those milestones, missing those types of what would her life be like? Yeah. What would she be like? What would she be doing? I mean, those are the things that I think are so hard with her age, passing at 10, versus if you're, somebody going through child loss where you lost a 20-year-old or a 40-year-old, you have a lot more memories to go on. And you have more recent stuff, and we're going to struggle with that because we've got a lot of time.
And you kind of get to see them go through the milestones and become what they were going to be.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas like her whole future was still in front of her.
Right.
Yeah.
Not getting to see her in middle school and high school and college, or get married or have kids or any of that stuff. I mean, that's a whole different, it's a whole different thing. And I think that goes back to what we started with, which was your grief, how you are in year 1 versus 2 versus 3 versus 10 versus 20. It's a growth process, a grief growth, I guess, but it's going to be hard. It's hard every day to, be reminded of those little things. And you were kind of talking about, the little things and stuff. And I was talking to a coworker the other day, and I kind of lost it because she's got a small kid, and her son, and he's at that age where he's running around like a crazy kid, and at times as a parent, we were the same way, especially with Gray. Like, it's frustrating as hell. But as I told her, that's some of the things I miss the most, like the little things, the everyday things. The big trips that you go on as a family are all well and good, but the basic stuff of just going to the grocery store or dealing with, a story about kids in school and they were mean to her or something like that. I think, those every day-to-day things are sometimes harder. Losing them.
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. It is the daily things. That's why I said, like, it's dumbfounding how many times she crosses my mind in a day for like the dumbest little reasons. It's constant.
Well, I just made Rice Krispie treats the other day, and it was like, Libby and I like to cook together, and she was at that age where she kind of wanted to do everything, and I was just kind of standing back, being, my role at that point was mixing the stuff when it got too thick, and she couldn't quite do it.
Hear the muscle.
It was, those little things are so important.
Let's see. How do you find moments of joy or hope without feeling guilty? It's a struggle. We try to do this, but it's always, I've talked about this before too, it's always tinged with an aspect of guilt and sadness. It is something that I think most grieving parents feel. Like, when you're having moments of joy, you feel guilty. Like, how could I be smiling? How could I be laughing? Like, when my daughter's gone, I think that's a work in progress. And that is something that you literally need to talk to yourself. Like, you've got to have a conversation with yourself and learn how to try to appreciate the good things that you do have and the good things that are happening to you when they happen. It's definitely a struggle.
I don't feel guilt as much, to be honest with you. I feel loss, sadness, because she's not there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel bad that I'm having a good time per se. I just wish that I was having that good time and she was there. I'm sad that she's missing that time.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's less guilt and more a sadness of the missed opportunities.
That makes sense. Is that something that changed for you? Because I know for me,
early on.
Yes. So that's actually something that's changed. It changed in 3 years, because I did used to feel guilty, like if people
I
would see
agree.
me laughing, I'd be like, oh shit, are they going to think I'm a horrible person because I'm laughing and my daughter died? And that's right. That's true. I do not feel guilty as much now as I just feel like, ugh, she should be here. Like, I wish she was here. More of a sadness.
Yes.
So that is a little bit of a change.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a change for me, for sure. But I do agree. Early on, yes, it was guilt all the time. I felt like, it's music was hard to listen to just because it was such an important part of what she and I did, especially. And I still struggle with music. I still can't listen to the music that we listen to together. I still can't do that. And now, if I am listening to music, which is rare, I just honestly, the joy of it has gone away for me.
Me too.
Because of Libs, but when I do hear a particular song, I'm like, this would be so much fun to sing with Libs. Like, she would love it. We'd be jamming in the car to this like crazy, screaming. So much fun.
What's that one you love? The Shabuzi song.
Shabuzi. She would have loved that. It's not even. It's just, and I don't, as Brooke can attest, I don't sing the right words half the time to anything. But it's the beat, it's the rhythm, it's just the fun of singing something. I think, Libby was much better at getting the words right, probably because of your influence of living with you on a daily basis. But I think on the flip side of that, she knew to have fun and mix things up too, because that's what I did, because I didn't listen to the words.
I know. She and I sang, and we did the same thing where we just belt random things out, and you've got, and
just have fun with it, like that.
Yeah. Like the TikTok dances, like when the whole Apple that you don't even know what I'm talking about, but the whole Apple Charlie XCX, when the new TikTok dances come out and go viral, I'm like, oh, Libs and I would have been doing this.
Yeah, and I do.
Music still sucks for me too. It's a big. I've lost the joy of listening to music. And
the only stuff I can listen to now is more of the old stuff that like we listened to in high school. Some of the stuff that I didn't listen to as much when Libby was around. But
can you do, like, we listen to Counting Crows? I can't listen to anything Counting Crows, and that was like your favorite band. Have you totally lost them? Because Libs, if you don't know, Libs, we from the time she was a baby, he would play Counting Crows constantly, and she knew all the songs and all the lyrics from the time. I mean, how old was she? She was like maybe 4 or 5, was so young, and she knew all the lyrics to the Counting Crows songs. And I kept telling David he needed to record her singing these Counting Crows songs and send it to them, because they would have thought it was so freaking adorable. It was the cutest thing ever.
Yeah. And then we had the one song specifically that we would listen to every single day. And again, because I'm bad with, song titles and stuff like that, but I can almost tell you, like, every single day we'd leave the house and we were driving to Miss Peggy's house, and we'd listen to this song, and it would hit right about the point where we were going on this back road, and we would hit this hill that if you hit it, you go fast enough, it gives you the belly, it feels funny in your belly kind of thing.
The big bump.
But we would hit that, and it was right at the part where it would go Libby Dibby Do. She would love just kind of, that was the part we would scream Libby Dibby Do, and she's so little at that time too, when that kind of first came out. But yeah, like all of that stuff. But no, I mean, I can. It's funny now that you bring it up. I don't really listen to Counting Crows as much, because it probably is like my mind is just blocking me saying don't do it. But I think I've done that with a lot of music. I have not listened to music nearly as much because it is such a trigger for me.
Well, because she loved it, and she loved all of our music that we listened to from the time she was tiny. Music is gone pretty much, mostly for me. It is hard. Let's see. What's something you've done in the past 3 years that you think Libby would be proud of? Do you want to get?
Not a thing. I mean, obviously the foundation is one of those.
Yeah, live like Libby. She'd be so proud of that.
You know, she'd be proud of that. But honestly, if I'm being honest, I try and live a life that she would be proud of. But I go to work, I come home, I don't have anything. If anything, I've lost my passion for the things that I used to do. I barely rode bike at all last year. I think I went out once. Soccer no longer has the same joy for me. Either hiking, we didn't do hardly any of that this past year. It's a struggle just to do some things some days, and I feel, how things have changed. Yeah, there's a lot of emptiness at this point. It's very hard because there are so many things, like all the things that I think it stems from all the things that I would love to enjoy. Enjoy. She should be there.
Yeah.
And she's not, and it pisses me off, and it's unfair. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a way we are very different in how we handle things. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you have kind of shut down more and become much less motivated than you ever used to be. Whereas I am like overproductive, not always in the healthiest way. Like my go-to is keeping myself busy and getting things done. And you're almost like the opposite of that.
Yeah, and I think it's, you've used it in a super positive way, as positive as it can be to lose a child. You've written the books, doing very well with, Grief Sucks, and that's amazing. But the Libby's Frontier books that you're writing, it's been an outlet for you that you've used to be really productive. And right, wrong, or indifferent, after we got divorced, my life revolved around the kids, and specifically Libby, because the boys were getting older. Even now, like we go over there and you come over to spend time, but they'll sit and eat dinner with us and chat for a little bit, but then they kind of
go do their
own
thing.
Do their own thing, get back to their games or D&D or whatever it is they're doing. But Libby would have been the one that was sitting there with me, or we would have been going out, going on a hike, going on a walk, doing something. Like she was the one, and I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I've lost, I don't have that person. So.
Yeah. Agreed. For me, I like to think she'd be proud of the stuff that I'm doing. I hope
she would be.
That she would be proud. And I think she would, because a lot of the things that I'm doing, I like to get her name out there. I thought she was awesome. She was an awesome kid, and people deserve to know her. And I think she would have loved that. She loved being on camera. She loved pretending we wouldn't let her on TikTok, but she loved pretending she was on TikTok and making videos and, pretending she was an influencer and all that kind of stuff. And so I feel like she would love the fact that she's a main character in my book series. And I think she would love the fact that she's got a nonprofit named after her. And I know she would love that we are helping other kids to dance. That really just is so her personality, that it's got her name attached to it and it's helping people. It's just lives. She was a shining star. And I love that with the stuff that I'm doing, I'm continuing shining that star. I think she would be tickled by that. I hope. Anyway.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Has your perspective on grief or life changed because of Libby's impact on you? What? Everything's changed because of Libby's impact on us. I don't even know how to answer that one. It's a complete losing Libby. It's like it's before and after. Your life before you lost Libby, your life after you lost Libby. And it's a completely different, like, you're a different person. It just rocks you to your very core.
It changes you not only mentally, physically, emotionally, but deep in your soul.
Yeah.
I mean, just there's nothing that compares to losing. Again, maybe I've been lucky enough, but I have both of my parents. You've obviously lost your parents, but even you have said, like, losing your parents versus losing Libby it's not even close.
Nope.
You know, it's a completely different type of grief that nobody wants to be a part of, and yet there are so many of us out there that have gone through this, whether it's, you know, losing a child even prior to them being born, you know, a miscarriage or something like that. It has a profound effect on you in so many ways. And it is hard. But yeah, there's no way that it doesn't impact you. I don't think there's any way that you can. I think what it's changed perspective wise is every moment counts, you know, regardless of, you know, I think we all have gone through that. Like, oh, I don't know what I'd do if I lost a child, but it just makes you, like we said earlier, it's the small moments. Those are the things that I miss the most, are the small things, the stupid little things of Libby waking up and crawling into bed with me in the morning, and us sitting there watching videos of America's Got Talent or whatever else. And that hour or whatever it was that we spent just laying in bed looking at videos and laughing are some of the moments that I cherish the most. So no matter how much your kids are annoying you or, you know, whatever, just know that, you know, it can all change in an instant. As shitty as that sounds, it can change in an instant. And it's not necessarily even a death. You know, if you have a child who gets cancer and has to go through that, it's going to change everything in your world as well. Or gets an injury that's, you know, a lifetime injury. It's changing your life so dramatically that, you know, just really enjoy those moments while you have them, because you just never know.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, it's not all, it's bad, but some of the ways that I've changed, just to try to be a little positive here, some of the ways I've changed have been better, I think, and have increased over the past 3 years. I feel like I have grown a shit ton as a person. Just realizing what's important and what's not important. I have become more myself, I think, than I ever was before. Just in the amount of shit that I will tolerate. I used to worry about everything and I don't really do that much anymore. You know, we've had snowstorms and ice storms and everything here, and all kinds of stuff happened with my tiny house when we had like Arctic temperatures, and I didn't have water for 5 days, and then discovered all kinds of black mold because my floor was rotten, because my water heater wasn't connected correctly. And before, I would have been so angry and like freaking out and constantly worrying about it. And now I'm just like, like things just don't bother me anymore, because I feel like it's like the worst has happened. So everything else is just kind of like, okay, I can deal with it. And yeah, I've learned to keep going, keep plugging away, good days, bad days. Yeah.
I think this actually came up on my feed today, and I thought it was really good. But it's Ernest Hemingway wrote this. The hardest lesson I've had to learn as an adult is the relentless need to keep going, no matter how broken I feel inside. The truth is raw, unfiltered, and painfully universal. Life doesn't stop when we are exhausted, when our hearts are shattered, or when spirits feel threadbare. Keeps moving, unyielding, indifferent, demanding that we keep pace. There is no pause button for grief, no intermission for healing, no moment where the world gently steps aside and allows us to mend. Life expects us to carry on burdens in silence, to push forward despite the weight of all that we carry. The cruelest part no one prepares us for is this. As children, we were fed stories of resilience wrapped in neat, hopeful endings, tales where pain has purpose and every storm clears to reveal a bright horizon. But adulthood strips away those comforting illusions, teaches us that the survival is rarely poetic. More often than not, it's about showing up when you'd rather disappear, smiling through pain no one else sees, and carrying on despite feeling like you're unraveling from the inside out. And yet somehow we persevere. That's the quiet miracle of being human. Even when life is relentless, even when hope feels distant, we keep moving forward. We stumble, we break, we fall to our knees, but we get up. And in doing so, we uncover a strength that we never knew we had. We learn to comfort ourselves in ways we wish others would. We become the voice of reassurance we once searched for. Slowly, we realize that the resilience isn't always about grand acts of bravery. Sometimes it's just a whisper, keep going. Yes, it's exhausting. Yes, it's unfair. And yes, there are days when the weight of it all feels unbearable. But every small step forward is proof that we haven't given up, that we are still fighting, still holding on, still refusing to let the darkness consume us. And that quiet defiance, choosing to exist, to try, to hope, is the bravest thing we can do. That popped up today. And it was like, that's
deep.
Very, very important today of all days for us, especially. Yeah. But just,
keep going. I mean, that's the message. Keep going. Yeah. Like, even if life sucks, you just get up and you keep going.
There are going to be good days. There's going to be the hard days, but there's going to be, days that are worth it. And there'll be days where you'll be smiling because you have a memory of the person that you lost. And that's important too.
Yeah.
To just remember them. And, in my discussion with my coworker the other day, we had never discussed Libby prior to that conversation. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to, I knew about it, but I didn't want to bring it up. And, and I was choking up. It was a struggle for me, but it's like I said to her, there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not thinking about her. There's not an hour that goes by that I'm not thinking about her. I love talking about her. I may get choked up. I may cry. I may whatever, but there are a lot of times where I talk about Libby and I'm laughing my ass off. It's like she just, she brought such joy and love into this world. And, we should all live like Libby just to, kind of bring that caring, kindness, and compassion to life that she always did.
Absolutely. We're almost at an hour, but we do have one. We have another question here. Hi, how are you both? I was just wondering, do you have faith about the afterlife or do you believe in God? Much love to you both. Do you want to take this one or do you want me to take this one?
I think, we've discussed this before. We're not religious. We don't have, we don't practice that in any way, but, me personally, I have my opinion on it's a little bit different than yours, but, I feel like if it's important to you and it helps you get through the day, then grab a hold of it. Anything that'll help you manage life is good, whether it's, some people do it through medication, other people do it through faith and prayer and all of that stuff. That's just not who we are personally, but I think it's important to follow that if that's something that's important.
Whatever works for you. Yeah. Grief. So much of grief is just whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong way. No, I myself am not religious, and I don't believe in an afterlife. And I know that is I get questions about that as, a grief personality. Yeah,
Right.
I hate saying it's kind of weird, but you know what I mean. As someone who's very like out there in the grief world, people ask me that constantly, like, how do you survive, like, feeling like you're never going to see her again? And for me, I feel like part of the reason why I do so much of what I do is that I don't feel like I'm going to see her again. So I want to make this life as good as I can. I want to do as many good things as I can. I want to be a good person while I'm here. And I want people, for me, it's about memory. I want people to remember her, and I want people to remember how much I freaking loved her. How much I loved being her mom.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing in my life. So yeah, that's why I do what I do. It's not for any sort of like afterward. And that's hard for a lot of people. Not a lot of people feel like that. And I'm cool. Like, I also am not a person who believes in signs or anything like that. I haven't gotten any signs from her that I know of, but I know that comforts a lot of other people. And people tell me all the time, like, oh, this was Libby. There was a rainbow. That was Libby. There was this happened, and it was Libby. And if that makes you feel better, go for it. Like, I love that people are thinking about her that way. And I feel like whatever brings you comfort, cling to it. Cling to it. Do whatever you need to do. So
yeah, I think if it works for you, that's the thing with grief. There is no right, wrong way to do it. It is purely about what you need to do for you to get through it, and what comforts you with your person. And it's very different for everybody. So, just know that you're doing okay. Yeah. You're not doing it wrong. There is no right, wrong way to do it, but just remember your person.
Going.
Yeah.
Just like that going. Says, keep going. Part of being human and part of loving and losing is getting up the next day and just doing it all over again and not giving up.
Just appreciate every moment that you're given, because it can be snapped away in an instant, whether it's losing a child or losing a parent, losing a best friend, losing a pet. So many people don't have children. They have pets, and that's their children. I mean, grief is unique to that relationship. It really is.
Yeah.
So just love them, and don't take any of it for granted, I think. is the biggest message. But
hug your peeps.
Yeah.
hug them tight. For us, hug them for us. Tell them you love them.
It's like, hey, I'd love to go hug that little girl that looks just like my daughter, and just to feel like a hug from like a 10-year-old.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do it, obviously. But
do not recommend hugging random little girls.
Yeah, I know.
When you're a grown-ass man.
But yeah, it's one of those things I miss that so much. I miss the I love you daddies. Mm-hmm. The simplest things are the things that I truly miss the most.
Yeah. All right. 3 years. We don't have any other questions, so I think we're good. We've hit over an hour that we've rambled. Thank you so much for listening. Like I said, if you're listening on the replay to the podcast or watching the video, feel free. If you do have questions, you can leave them in the comments. I answer all of the comments as I get them. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. I personally just want to say I appreciate everyone so much that has reached out to me, has reached out to the both of us, who has posted about Libby today, who is remembering her. I think all grieving parents or all grieving people just want to know that their person is remembered and missed and loved. So let people know that. Let people know that their person is not forgotten.
I think that's really an important message.
Yeah.
It's just Yeah.
All right. So year 3 down. We'll be back for year 4. I'm sure you'll be back on before that. But also, thank you to everyone who has supported my YouTube channel. I got a notification yesterday. Was it 475,000 views on YouTube, which just boggles my effing mind. Like, that is amazing. And Libs would be super excited about that. She would be so excited.
She'd be dancing.
Yeah, I know. Sure. She would. Man, we would have had so much fun. But anyway, all right. Thank you guys. We love you. Thanks for your support. Thanks for listening. Live like Libby. Yeah, live like Libby. If you're local, I'm posting it later today, but our bingo fundraiser, we picked the date, is going to be June 28th, 2025 at Warwick High School. So mark that on your calendars. And if you're interested in donating a basket or any money or anything to get that rolling and contribute to the bingo, I will have information about that on the interwebs, on social media, and on livelike.libby.org. If you would also, since I'm plugging away, since you'd like to donate, if you'd like to donate any money to Live Like Libby to help us fund the dreams of dancers in financial need in Libby's honor, you can always go to livelike.libby.org and donate there. And we appreciate that so much.
Yeah, we want to keep donating that. I talked about that number 40, we're probably close to 45,000 that we've donated so far. And we're certainly emptying the coffers pretty quick. So
it goes fast. We have gotten more and more. That's the thing, as we get bigger, we get more and more applications for the scholarship, and we want to help as many people as we possibly can, and we can't do that if we don't have donations. So
it's nice to see it spreading out further and further as far as dance studios that know about it. So we want to keep that going, but we also need to, at the same time, we need to get some money. So
whether it's donations or purchasing merch, like we've got on, spreading the word comfy. To live like Libby. They are comfy. They are really comfy. Okay, to wrap up here, Kelly says, love you both. We love you too, Kelly. Thanks for watching. Mrs. Walker, you rock. Yeah. You are welcome for sharing, and thank you for being here. And Kimberly says, the way that you both have traveled this path is inspirational. Thank you. We're just doing the best we can. Yep. Yeah. Making her proud.
That's what
it's all about, trying to make her proud. So
love you, baby girl.
Yes. We love her. We love you guys. Thank you for watching. We will see you later.